Welcome to Freda Chando Analysis, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to say thank you for your continued support to the channel. Grant me the latitude to just request for 2 or 3 things very quickly, with deepest humility. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not subscribed to our channel, I want to beseech you to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that whenever we do a video like this, then YouTube will automatically notify you. Number 2, again with profound humility, kindly like and share our videos. The secret behind liking a video is, if a video gets more likes, then its ratings will go up and YouTube will recommend it for more viewers, and in doing that, you'll be part of the team that will be supporting this channel very greatly. And don't forget to share with me your comments in the comment section. Again, I'm deeply humbled. Now, after taking oath of office of the members of the cabinet in the Ruto administration, several things have happened that have really elicited sharp criticism from the public. And experts are saying that if something is not done very quickly as a matter of urgency, then we will witness a downward trend, and the cabinet will not deliver to the people the promises of this government. At first, it started with the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Education, who made some public pronouncements about very critical policies, and he suggested that very soon the government will stop funding public universities. And this was met with a lot of criticism from the university dons and lecturers, who said that such pronouncement should not be encouraged. If there is anything of such magnitude, then they must discuss with the stakeholders. Then came the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the ever controversial Moses Kuria, who first went against the hustler narrative campaign that we were given, and he said that he would ban the Mitumba business. Then, after a lot of public outcry and criticism, he came back later and negated those statements, saying that it was quoted out of context. And as if, before dust settled even on the first statements, Moses Kuria again went trying to solve a land saga between the East African East Africa inland port industry and the residents of Machakos. So Moses Kuria went there and immediately took sides, giving orders to the residents, whom he said were squatters, to vacate the land or he will evacuate them himself. This again did not go down well with the governor of Machakos, Wavinya Ndeti. The Wiper leader Kalonzo also added his views very furiously. And the former governor of Nairobi, Mike Sonko, also criticized that move. Then we cannot forget the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Sports, who was seen posing for a photograph with some junior NYS officer wiping his shoes. And very many people thought this was not right, because it is like bullying, it is like micromanaging. We need, people say that we need a servanthood kind of leadership, not someone who is a boss, the bossy kind of leadership where people will be wiping your shoes. Now later, Mr. Babu Namwamba, who heads the sports who heads the youth and sports ministry affairs, called that NYS officer junior and gave him a job in I think he was trying to do damage control. So experts are saying that there is a problem that is running deep down into this cabinet. So in this video, I want us to try and look at what are some of the things that the cabinet is lacking and how can we provide a remedy. Now, number 1, it is believed that after William Ruto had constituted his cabinet, there were a number of things that he needed to have done, because when he was constituting this cabinet, he looked at a number of things. One was gender inclusivity, where he was trying to achieve a third gender rule, so that the feminine gender could get maybe a third of the cabinet slot. constitutionally, he was also supposed to look at the expertise, people who will be able to deliver in those offices. And I think this was also lacking because there were criticisms about some of the education credential of some of his ministers and people like Aisha Jumwa. The other thing that President William Ruto was looking at is regional balancing, where he has to make sure that the cabinet secretaries represent the face of Kenya, even though people are really lamenting that it is a cabinet of two tribes, the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. But I've seen other few tribes being included there. Then the last thing that I feel the William Ruto was also looking at is rewarding some of the friends. Over the world, the head of state or the head of government would try and reward some of his friends, those who supported his bid to become the president. And this is how people like Moses Kuria and Machogu came into these offices, because Mr. Machogu had vied for the senatorial position in Nyamira, where he lost, Nyamira County, where he lost. And then Moses Kuria has been an MP, Gaturu South MP, for I think now 2 or 3 terms. And then last general election, he vied for the Kiambu gubernatorial office, where he also lost to the current governor, I think, Kimani Wamatangi. So after the constituting the cabinet, you see some are politicians, others are brought from the civil service, others from the private sector. A mixed group. So number one, what should have happened is to take the cabinet to an induction kind of seminar for orientation. An induction and orientation seminar where it is a common practice everywhere in the private sector, in government, where you go for a short seminar and some experts are brought in to give you a brief talk on what is expected of you. You are expected to behave with a lot of decorum and to understand just how you are going to perform your duties. In other words, you are being indoctrinated to understand your role. Because as a cabinet secretary, you not only deal with national issues, but international issues too. Minister or the cabinet secretary for trade and industry is one whose decisions could interfere with bilateral or multilateral agreements between and among countries. He could be called to sign agreements between, if Kenya, for example, has an agreement between, maybe some trade agreement between Kenya and the US, this is the person who would be called. And in making those agreements, he must be very smart and sharp. So William Ruto is being called upon to organize very imperatively for a seminar, so that some of these ministers should be oriented, some orientation can be done to them, so that they stop misbehaving. Because very many people feel, the public feels, that the way Moses Kuria was handling this issue, he already took sides, and they feel we should calm down. If we have to realize the dreams of this country, and if the cabinet will achieve the promises that President Ruto and the Deputy Rigathi Gachagua gave to Kenyans, then we need to have a very organized cabinet. Number two, this cabinet seems to be lacking, or they do consultation mechanism. They need to embrace a culture of consultation. If you remember, the union that represents the university dons really criticized Mr. Machogu, saying that if you want to make some magnitude pronouncements and policies that are going to interfere deeply with an institution, then you need to sit down with stakeholders so that you compare notes. This is the best culture all over the world, where leaders sit down and you get to hear from each side, because you don't just wake up and say, we will stop funding public universities, without sitting down and looking at the nitty-gritties. Because if you look at the situation, I read what the Secretary General of the union was saying. They say that even as it is now, they are sitting on debts. They have not paid even some of their staff, they have bills to pay, they have several pending bills. And so for the minister to come up and say that they just want to stop funding the universities, it was actually wrong. So you need to get both sides. Policies, I want to repeat, that you are making will interfere not only with the Kenyans, but even international interference can be realized if you speak recklessly or if you rush. So this cabinet should go for a meeting where, because there are two kinds of agreements here, or two kinds of consultation. Number one, there is a cabinet consultative forums where people take responsibility. Everything that is to be done is to be passed as a resolution and put down in minutes, so that if anything happens, then you can always go back and say, this is something that we passed as a cabinet. In the past, we've seen leaders who sit down in a cabinet, they pass as a resolution something to be done, only to go out later there and make some populist kind of statements, and he negates those facts, whatever they had agreed in the meeting. Now he behaves as if he was not part of the team that negotiated and agreed on the way forward. So they must sit down and agree that if they pass something as a cabinet, then it has to be followed. So like in the case of Machogu, he would have gone and sat down with the university dons. In the case of Honorable Moses Kuria, he should have gone and looked at the historic events that took place in that land. Because if you look, if you hear what the leaders are saying, leaders from Machakos, they're saying this was originally their land and they leased it out, I think, to the company. Now the company promised a number of things, some 2% of revenue going to them. They have not seen that. The company even, I think, cheated them that they would build hospitals, basic amenities, schools and all that, which they have not seen up to date. So there is a culture in the country, ladies and gentlemen, where someone simply goes and builds some, it starts with building some shanties somewhere, and then he stays there for some time, then he claims that land. So I have a feeling that the company could be lying. And for Moses Kuria to go and take sides and start telling the squatters, he called them squatters, to move, because he told them, if you don't move by yourself, then I will come and move you out. And you see, usually when a minister orders people to move, it will be, the police will be there, the GSU, that will be tear gassed out. And we have children who will suffer. We have, women who will suffer. So it is being urged that before a minister takes action, then he should consult to avoid some of these casualties and victims who will unnecessarily suffer. Let him go, sit down with the leaders, sit down with wazees who understand the history. Let him get the side of, they could even sit together. Let him call the representatives from the company, East African Portland Industry, representatives from Machakos and Wazes will be very important, and even the representatives from the lands ministry, so that they compare notes. I want to tell you that anytime serious minds are put together, there must always be a solution. And Mr. Kuria should understand that the office of a minister really requires a lot of wisdom. You don't move with speed. So this is also something that Mr. Kuria is lacking. The cabinet is also advised to ensure that they separate politics from their work. You see, some of them, and I dare say most of them, were politicians and they are still politicians. And you will forgive them and excuse them for now because they are just in office. They have not really removed the clothes of a politician. They still don't understand that they are politicians. You see, as a politician, there were populist pronouncements there where you go to a funeral or a rally and you say things that are music to the ears of your listeners. But these offices are not run by politics. These are serious offices that only requires policies, because the ministries are run by policies. You sit down together and draft policies that will chart the way forward and realize the dreams of the Kenya Kwanza team. So the cabinet, or rather the head of the cabinet, who is the president, is being advised to admonish his cabinet to ensure that they realize, now they should understand that they are no longer politicians, and especially those who are politicians before. Like I said, some are from the private sector, others from the civil service, but especially those who are politicians, they should now separate their offices from politics. And the last thing that very many people feel that this cabinet is lacking, ladies and gentlemen, is the acceptance that they are now in government, the acceptance that they have been given a calling to serve Kenyans. In fact, these are not just my words. If you look at the behavior of our beloved Deputy President, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, he behaves as if he has not accepted that he is the Deputy President. He still tells people about state capture. You see, they are now the state. They have everything. They have the instruments of power. They should desist from talking as if they are not in government. You know, in the first few weeks, I could excuse them because there was that exuberance, excitement, lack of accepting the mere fact that they have been in that office. In fact, Mr. Gachagua is on record as saying that he could not believe that the same officers who are being sent to his door very early in the morning to come and apprehend him are the very officers who are now giving him security. And that is very juicy. If there's people who are harassing you and the people who are now giving you security, that should be even a motivation, an impetus to make you even work hard and deliver to Kenyans. They have also said that there were some charges that were leveled against them as a result of political, machination, and the charges are being dropped. They are now very free. There are no officers arresting them. There are no charges against them. Why can't they just sit down now, settle, and conceptualize the fact that they are now our leaders and they have been given offices to run so that they can move forward, ladies and gentlemen. And experts are saying that this should be handled as a matter of urgency, very imperative for the president to chair a meeting where his people will now move forward instead of pronouncing roadside policy making, we will do this, we'll do that, so that the country can move forward, ladies and gentlemen. And that is my take on the cabinet and the behavior of some of our cabinet secretaries. I don't know what you think. Please share with me in the comment section what you think should be done going forward, and the behavior of Mr. Kuria, Mr. Babu Namwamba, and Mr. Gachagua, and many others. And thank you for watching, and till we meet in another video. Cheers.